and my Dharma friends. I want to use the word Dharma because we all Dharmas here. Earlier today, the grandmother took her granddaughter here. She was born here. She's about 7 or 8 years old. Did not understand much about Vietnamese or the culture of Buddhism. So, having seen me, the grandmother invited her to pay respect to me. Go ahead, bow to him. And the girl bowed. Instead of bowing to me, she bowed to the trash can, and it was. I burst out laughing. Well, it's really something. Anyway. Daniel came a little bit early today, and we have a little talk about men's problems. Christy that asked the question of what's wrong with sufferings. Was it right? There are two approaches to that question, what's wrong with suffering? One thing is because we complain, and therefore we have that kind of question, we have that kind of attitude, what's wrong with suffering? This is very, very common to people. People came to me and asked, what's wrong with this, that, blah, 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 blah. Always in the conjunction with unpleasant. You don't seem to ask the question, what's wrong with happiness? What's wrong with nice weather? What's wrong with being so healthy? But we're asking, what's wrong with sickness and blah, blah, blah. It is because of the Buddha's first sermon. He said about the Four Noble Truths. The first one is a suffering. Having this body, there is no way that we can get away with suffering. There is no way. I used to practice in Pure Land temples too, and behind the temple there was some places that they put the picture of the dead people. A lot of them. Some of them don't even have the picture yet because they were still in the womb and they died in the womb. Some died very young, 10, 20, 30, 40, up until 100. We came to the 4 phases. Being born, getting old, get sick, and the final moment. So if we go through all 4 phrases like that, then we're lucky, because of some unfortunate ones, they did not go through 4 phrases. Well, that's one kind of suffering too. Coming here, we try to understand what suffering is. If we pay very close attention to the meditation half an hour ago, that we can really experience suffering right there too. Ache and pain. And when suffering arises, it's a good chance for us to study what it is. In a way that suffering is part of life, so we cannot deny, we cannot get away, so we may as well to study it. Understanding suffering is a kind of wisdom. Can you ask yourself that, can I get away with that? Yes, there is a way of getting away with that. You have physical suffering, which is the body. And then you have a mental suffering, which is the mind that complains about physical suffering. If we can understand the nature of this body, the decaying every day. Now, I'm talking about really understand, not a academic studying. Then whatever comes, we're at peace with it. We are peaceful because of suffering is the first arrow, and we don't need the second arrow of mental suffering that causes more harm. I remember my time in the forest. We didn't have adequate medical needs. So the meditation center was about 8,000 yogis. And about 80% of them got sick. And the doctor came in twice a week. Remember, about 8,000 yogis. So let's say 800 got sick, and then only one doctor came in twice a week. And they make it a priority to the monks. And so there's no way to get to mundane people turns at all. So it's really painful. We didn't have any medication. It was diarrhea. And the meditation instructor suggested us that you pay more attention to the pain. You pay more attention to the suffering, so you can learn about the suffering. Don't push it aside, because it's a very valuable lesson. To tell you the truth, that during the process of diarrhea, nobody had a heart to really learn what that is, what suffering is at all. The mind just wanted to get away with it, how to cure it as quick as possible. But thanks to impermanence, it went away in a week without anything at all. But after that, all the experience that one went through, it came back. It came back in a way of understanding. Oh, it doesn't matter how worse it is, it will go away. Suffering has its limitation too. And sitting here in half an hour, sometimes the body doesn't get used to it. So it gives, numbs, it agitated, and it's just want to move because of the unpleasant feeling of sitting still. But keep close, keep watching close, observe very closely. At first there's a distance between an observer and the observed. But as we pay more attention to it, the observer and the observed getting closer, and then they congeal at one. And right there is no you or me that experience the suffering. There is only the process of suffering. This is very, very interesting. Pay attention so close that there is no self anymore. It's just a phenomenon. It's just a process of something going on. There's not even a term of suffering. There's not even a concept of suffering. It's just something going on. And right there, we can understand that, oh, this is how it is to get away with suffering, to understand what that is. The word suffering is a concept that mind made out. Otherwise, it's just a sensation. It's just purely a sensation, that's it. And of course, like I said before, that having this body, you can never get away with such a thing. Can never get away. So we might as well we psych ourselves. It can happen. And if it happened, what can we do with it? How can we deal with it? The first is that we tolerate with it. And then as we practice a little bit, we gain more experience, and then we're content with it. But then as we go deeper, then our attitude changes a little bit more, that we welcome it. At first we tolerate. The second degree is that we content with it. But until that we welcome it, it's just like that Halloween is coming soon. That kids coming by, knock on the door asking for candies, and they come in different figures. They will come by and then they'll go. And we welcome it. We just welcome because of this the nature of the body. We say that if this body is yours, actually yours, then you can command it. Say that I forbid this body not to suffer. But we cannot do it. It just comes, so it's part of life. And understand that this is part of life. We don't have, mental agonies when it comes. And that's how we get away with suffering. It's not that we're not growing, we're not growing old, not because of that. The process of the physical process still going on, but the mental process is the key figure for not suffering. We all here with one aspiration: how to be happy. Understand suffering is happiness. And the process begins with an observation. You observe everything, what's going on with this physical body, as well as meditation. The more that we understand this physical body, the more we understand with the mind, then the more that we let go of what we call the self. And that letting go is the happiness. I keep saying that how much time left do we have? So be happy. Just be happy. It's a waste. It's a really waste if we hold on to grudge, hold on to agonies. And during the process of meditation, we have some glimpse of liberations, but we did not recognize it. That's all. The happiness of meditation, the happiness of letting go, the happiness of understanding what's going on between within this body and the mind. And in that glimpse, we're going to find out that it's very worthwhile. Life is so beautiful to live. It's really beautiful. It's really beautiful. And then we don't have the question of what's wrong with suffering anymore, because it is so beautiful. It's, even though that one that having a terminal illness, I forgot the name of the man out, his story. He's a Catholic follower. He died young, in his 40s, about tuberculosis. And the story recalled by his friends said that during his sickness he never complained. He never complained anything at all. At the final moment, his aunt came in. Do you have any statement in making peace with God? And he said that I never have an argument with God before, so why should I make a peace with Him? That's how beautiful it is. So sometimes, people come here with a different religious background. Forget about religions. Forget everything about that. Because it doesn't matter who you are, you still have this body and you still have the mind. Right there we study. We study this body. We study how the mind goes. Once that we understand, then this is happiness. Very easy, very easy. You just observe. Especially that in sitting meditations, because of in awakened state, especially that at work, the mind operates on a normal basic. 99%. So now, when we sit down, we have a chance to let all of that go. And once that the mind let go of the normal basic, daily normal basic, then it opens out to a new dimension. And then we can see a new world. It's really beautiful, in which there is love and compassion. It cannot go wrong. I guarantee 1,000% it cannot go wrong. It's all about love and compassion. Cannot promote enough of that. The only thing we have to do is let go of the normal basic mundane mind, and there something wonderful happening. I'm not talking about mysterious thing. I'm talking about something which we all can experience. We all can experience that. It's just like that. The water, in dirty water, you cannot see the bottom. But if the water is clear, then we can see the bottom of the lake. Same thing with the mind. Purify the mind, then something else can happen. So let's purify the mind by observing. Just purely observe. And then whatever comes, let it go. Pain, let it go. That shall pass. Happiness comes, let it go. That shall pass. Love comes, let it go. That shall pass. And then, when we let go of all the conditioning phenomena, then there is the unconditional happiness that comes. When we have a taste of it, then life is really beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, it's your turn to share your experience, please. Anyone at all? I know you do have experience now. Yes.
I had a question.
Please.
Yeah, do you give candy to the kids, and what kind of experiences have you had giving the Halloween candy to the kids?
Oh, it's in the 3-month retreats, at the end of 3-month retreats, people give money to us as a token, as an appreciation that for 3 months practice, we practice on behalf of them and such. And then I gave a big chunk of that money to the young kids that came here. I felt good. Actually, that I felt really good. And then when I took that money, I gave it to them. It feels so good that I wanted to give more, but I didn't have that much more. So, and that's how good it is to let go. actually it feels very good. I don't know. Sometimes it's. When I heard the story of letting go, just like this one, you have two apples, a really good one, and then an ugly little one. When you give that out, which one that you really give out? Are you willing to give out a good one, or are you willing to give out a little one that you hold back to yourself? I did not understand that until that, given. The more that you give, the more that you're happy. I can tell you that. I'm not going to tell you that you're going to give your bank account to me. No, it's not. It's not. It's just that it feels so good to. So. Since I'm in charge with the kitchens, I always tell the people that please, you offer the best. Don't offer less than the best. Because I see each of you is a Buddha to be, as the Buddha said, that you are a Buddha to be. And I offer the best to the Buddha to be. And every time I do that, I feel so good. So that's why I keep encouraging people that in the kitchen, please do the best, because you are servant to the Buddha to be. So, and it feels really good. I don't know, that's how I feel, so. Yep, that's how I feel, Daniel. Give it out. Yes, yes. Anything else?
Yeah, I could ask another question. So how did the Buddha deal with the aches and pains and the illness? Eventually he got old, and also I imagine there was a lot of argumentation. Obviously some people didn't agree with him, maybe even tried to attack him or something. How did the Buddha deal with all those potential suffering?
Okay, we all know that he died at 80, and he died because of food poison. So there was involvement of some suffering at all. Actually, some suffering right there too. But the thing is that the awakening, the enlightenment, has something to do with the self. When there is no self, then nothing matters anymore. The process of this body is still going on. You are still entitled to be sick, to be everything. But mentally, there's no budging at all. There's a story that while the Buddha was on the alms round, a person behind keeps scolding at him, and he was cool. He didn't react at all. Didn't you hear me that I was scolding at you? Yes, I heard you were scolding at me. Why didn't you react? And the Buddha said that if you try to give something to a person, and the person did not want to take it, then that something will go to somewhere. It goes back to you. So whatever you scold at me, you are scolding at yourself in such a way. And because of there's no self anymore, so it doesn't matter that whatever you do, it would not affect him for an enlightened being. There's no self. We react because of the self. We react because of the existence of this entity. And the reaction shows suffering. Without reactions, everything will be okay. Like one Tibetan master said that no self, no problem. And it's exactly what it is. No self, no problem. And practicing no self, non-self is to practice of here and now. We observe everything. At first, there is a self that try to, you put an effort into doing things, but later on that it just flows naturally, and nothing that can hurt that person anymore, because there's no self. No reaction to it. And that's an attitude. I don't want to use the word attitude, because in enlightened being there is no such a thing called attitude. Yep.
Maybe it's lack of attitude.
We could state that. We could say that lack of attitude. Earlier, that what's wrong with problems is that I just say one end. The other end is that when there is no self, then what's wrong with problems? There's no problem. It doesn't matter anymore. In one end is that because of the self, therefore everything that arises. The other end is that there's no self, so the problem still exists, but the problem doesn't hurt to that enlightened being anymore. And so, what's wrong with that problems? What's wrong with problems? Oh, no problems. The way it is, non-dual, the way it is. So, I hope that come in here, we share experience and we learn from each other. Mind is a vast subject to study. We can never study enough of that. The more we understand the mind, the more that we don't know what mind is. That's how vast it is. And it's very interesting. It's so interesting because of in universities, there are so many different kinds of subject, but there is no school of mind at all. They have school of engineering, school of science, school of medical and such, but there's no school of mind. Philosophy touched something to that, but philosophy is still just some kind of speculation that it but when one that turn back into oneself and study what mind is, that is the actuality. To me, it's a vast subject to study, and it's very interesting, extremely interesting. Anything else? I hope that through this conversation we come to enlighten what suffering is. We came out with the wisdom of understand what suffering is. And that understanding gives a way to happiness. Of course, that don't expect that suffering will never come to us. No, it will come. But we have a different perspective of looking at suffering. We're no longer afraid of that, because we know that the nature of this body-mind is part of it, suffering. And we learn from suffering. We learn from that. As long as we learn, then we can turn from suffering to happiness. Thank you.